if you rarely get sick, if colds pass through your household and skip you, if flu seasons come and go without touching you, if people around you fall while you stay standing. There is a specific scientific explanation for that, and it doesn't start with your lifestyle, your diet, or your vitamin intake. It starts with a plague, one that killed between 30 and 60% of everyone it touched, and the ancestors who survived it. When a disease tears through a population and kills half of it, something profound happens to the survivors. It isn't luck, not entirely. The people who survive a catastrophic epidemic do so partly because their immune systems carry specific genetic variants that give them a measurable biological advantage against that particular pathogen. They mount faster immune responses. They suppress viral replication more efficiently. Their bodies recognize and neutralize the threat before it overwhelms them. Those survivors reproduce. Their children inherit the immune variants that kept their parents alive. Over generations, those variants spread through the population. Not because they were selected for in isolation, but because everyone who didn't carry them died before they could pass on competing variants. This is called pathogen-driven natural selection, and it is one of the most powerful evolutionary forces ever documented in the human genome. Every major plague in human history left a genetic fingerprint in the survivors. And if you are the kind of person who rarely gets sick, there is a measurable probability that your immune system is running on ancient survivor DNA. Genetic variants forged in one of history's most catastrophic disease events and passed down to you across dozens of generations. The most significant plague-driven genetic selection event in European history was the Black Death. Between 1347 and 1351, the bubonic plague swept across Europe from Central Asia, carried by fleas on rats along the Silk Road trade routes. In 4 years, it killed between 75 and 200 million people globally. In Europe alone, it eliminated between 30 and 60% of the entire population, with some regions losing as much as 80% within a single outbreak season. No disease event in recorded history has had a comparable impact on a human population in such a compressed time frame. And the genetic consequences were immediate and lasting. A landmark study published in 2022, analyzing ancient DNA from over 200 skeletal remains from London and Denmark, comparing pre-plague, during plague, and post-plague populations, identified specific variants of immune system genes that were dramatically more common in plague survivors than in victims buried in the same mass graves. The critical gene was ERAP2, a gene involved in processing and presenting pathogen proteins to the immune system, essentially the mechanism by which your body learns to recognize and attack a bacterial threat. One specific ERAP2 variant, called haplotype B, was found at significantly higher frequencies in plague survivors than in victims. People carrying 2 copies of the haplotype B variant were approximately 40% more likely to survive a Black Death infection than people carrying other variants. 40%. In a disease with a mortality rate between 30 and 60%. That is an enormous survival advantage, enough to fundamentally reshape the genetic profile of the European population within a few generations. Here is what makes this relevant to you personally. The ERAP2 haplotype B variant that protected plague survivors in the 14th century is still present in modern European populations, running at measurable frequencies in people of European descent today. It did not disappear when the Black Death receded. It became embedded in the gene pool because the people who carried it were disproportionately likely to survive and reproduce. But ERAP2 doesn't just confer resistance to Yersinia pestis, the bacterium that causes bubonic plague. ERAP2 is involved in the broader immune response to a range of pathogens, particularly bacterial infections and inflammatory conditions. The variant that protected your ancestors from the Black Death may be giving your immune system a measurable advantage against a range of modern bacterial threats. People carrying the haplotype B variant show stronger innate immune responses to bacterial antigens in laboratory studies. Their immune systems recognize and flag bacterial protein fragments more efficiently, triggering faster inflammatory responses before an infection gains a foothold. If you are someone who seems to shake off infections that knock other people flat, if bacterial illnesses tend to pass through you quickly, if you recover faster than expected. ERAP2 haplotype B is one of the most scientifically documented explanations for why the Black Death was not the first plague to rewrite European DNA. It was the most recent, the Plague of Justinian, the first recorded pandemic of bubonic plague, swept through the Byzantine Empire and Mediterranean world between 541 and 549 CE. Killing an estimated 25 to 50 million people. Ancient DNA from its victims confirms it was caused by the same Yersinia pestis bacterium that returned 8 centuries later as the Black Death. The Justinian plague hit a world that had not yet developed the ERAP2 protective variants in significant frequencies. The selection pressure it created, killing tens of millions and leaving survivors disproportionately carrying advantageous immune variants, began the process that the Black Death later accelerated. Go further back still. Genetic analysis of Bronze Age skeletal remains from across Eurasia has detected early strains of Yersinia pestis in populations dating to approximately 3000 BCE, over 4,000 years ago. These early plague strains were less virulent than the medieval version, but still capable of driving significant mortality in dense settled populations. The immune variants your body is running on today were not shaped by one plague. They were shaped by thousands of years of repeated epidemic pressure, each outbreak culling the genetically vulnerable and leaving the genetically resistant to rebuild the population. The Black Death was the most dramatic single event, but it was the culmination of a process that began in the Bronze Age. Your immune system is the product of every plague your ancestral line survived. ERAP2 is the best documented plague survival variant, but it is not the only one. The CCR5 Delta 32 mutation is one of the most studied immune variants in human genetics. CCR5 is a protein on the surface of white blood cells that certain pathogens, including HIV, use as an entry point. The Delta 32 mutation disables this protein, blocking that entry mechanism entirely. People who carry 2 copies of CCR5 Delta 2 are essentially immune to HIV infection. People carrying 1 copy have significantly delayed disease progression. CCR5 Delta 32 runs at approximately 10% frequency in European populations. It is almost entirely absent in East Asian, African, and Indigenous American populations. The leading hypothesis for why it concentrates in Europeans and why it reached 10% frequency rather than disappearing as a neutral mutation is that it provided survival advantage during one or more historical epidemic events, most likely the Justinian plague, the Black Death, or smallpox, all of which ravaged European populations while largely sparing geographically isolated non-European groups. The mutation that makes some people resistant to the most significant infectious disease of the modern era is almost certainly a byproduct of plague survival selection in medieval European populations. If you are of European descent, there is approximately a 10% chance you are carrying this variant right now. Modern consumer DNA testing has not yet made ERAP2 haplotype analysis widely accessible in standard ancestry reports. Most major testing platforms, Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, MyHeritage, report ancestry composition and some health predispositions, but do not currently flag plague survival immune variants specifically. However, raw DNA data downloaded from these platforms can be analyzed through third-party tools. Platforms like Promethease or Genetic Genie that cross-reference your raw genetic file against published scientific literature, including the studies on ERAP2, CCR5 Delta 32, and related immune variants. If you have already taken a consumer DNA test, Your raw data file likely contains the information. It simply hasn't been interpreted for you yet. The science connecting historical plague survival to modern immune function is recent, fast-moving, and still being mapped. But the core finding is already established. The people who survived the Black Death passed something forward, and in some of the people watching this right now, that something is still working exactly as it was designed to. If you rarely get sick, your body already knows something your ancestry report hasn't told you yet. You didn't just inherit their name or their bloodline. You inherited the biological shield that kept them alive when half the world was dying. That is not a small thing. Subscribe. See ya.